You're now under investigation. Will you apologise for that, or do you think that was okay?
As I say, I stand by what I wrote.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 worst apologies from politicians.
I misled people, including even my wife. I deeply regret that.
For this list, we're looking at the most insincere-sounding mea culpas from world leaders and other politicians, including times when an "I'm sorry" was in order and was not given. What politician apology do you find the most unbelievable? Let us know in the comments. Number 10. Justin Trudeau.
I should have known better, but I didn't.
A politician getting exposed once for wearing blackface or brownface is bad enough. But when it happens 3 times, that's a whole new level of PR emergency. In 2019, about a month before the Canadian federal election, photos and videos emerged of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau dressing up with his skin darkened.
I didn't understand how hurtful this is to people who live with discrimination every single day. I have always acknowledged that I come from a place of privilege, but I now need to acknowledge that that comes with a massive blind spot.
Trudeau ended up apologizing on numerous occasions and copping to the racist nature of the acts in question. However, he sidestepped questions about the number of times he'd done so.
I shared the moments that I recollected, but I recognize that it is something absolutely unacceptable to do. And I appreciate calling it makeup, but it was blackface.
Like with many political apologies, this incident begs the question, was he sorry he did it or just sorry he got caught?
His apology was weak because he used euphemisms for what actually happened. He didn't want to take responsibility. So he had to come back out today, and he said the words that he said, but at this point, he's just saying words to try to get through this campaign.
Nonetheless, Trudeau still managed to win re-election, so the damage wasn't exactly long-lasting. Number 9. Aaron Wrights. Gymnast Simone Biles withdrew from the women's team final at the Tokyo Olympics in 2021, citing mental health struggles.
I say put mental health first, so it's okay sometimes to even sit out the big competitions to focus on yourself.
Though most saw it as a noble act, Texas Deputy Attorney General Aaron Wrights didn't feel that way. He quoted a tweet about gymnast Carrie Strug. The latter athlete performed a vault on a broken ankle, helping her team reach gold in 1996. He compared Strug to Biles, who he called a, quote, selfish, childish national embarrassment. After earning plenty of backlash for his comments, Wrights tweeted a half-baked apology. He said his words came from, quote, frustration and disappointment, before calling the gymnast a, quote, true patriot. Still, it felt forced and surface level. Number 8. Michael Grimm. Politicians are people, and like all people, they are prone to get emotional. However, there's a difference between getting emotional and bringing talk of physical violence into the equation. When New York Representative Michael Grimm was asked about a federal investigation into his campaign, the former Marine told reporter Michael Scotto that he would, quote, break him in half.
Not me. You're not me. Break him in half. Like a boy.
Grimm also profanely threatened to throw him off the balcony.
Let me be clear to you. You have to do that to me again, I'll turn you this.
While he eventually apologized, it wasn't until after defending his conduct and claiming Scotto's question was a, quote, cheap shot.
The bottom line is, I overreacted and my emotions got the better of me. I lost my cool, and that shouldn't happen.
Number 7. Ashraf Ghani. When the Taliban took over Afghanistan in 2021, President Ashraf Ghani fled to the United Arab Emirates for humanitarian asylum.
Afghanistan's president began the day vowing to negotiate an orderly transfer of power, but he didn't stick around to do it, fleeing the country, he said, to avoid bloodshed, though many called it cowardly.
Ghani said that he left the capital of Kabul to avoid further bloodshed and assassination, and apologized for not being able to, quote, make it end differently.
I was forced to leave Afghanistan with one set of traditional clothes, a vest, and the sandals I was wearing.
But many took his departure as an act of betrayal, and that mea culpa wasn't enough.
For Ghani, only time will tell, but it is a result that will always color his legacy.
That's not the only thing people are upset about either. He's also been accused of embezzling nearly $170 million of the country's money, although no evidence has been presented to support this accusation. Number 6. Ted Yoho. The exact words Representative Ted Yoho allegedly said to Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on the Capitol Hill steps are too vulgar to say here. He reportedly confronted her, notably calling her, quote, disgusting for positing that job loss and poverty had impacted New York City's crime rate. Ocasio-Cortez is said to have stood up to the Florida Republican, calling his words out as, quote, rude. Upon walking away, Yoho reportedly referred to her in very profane terms. He did apologize to AOC on the House floor for his combative demeanor, but denied addressing her in offensive terms.
The offensive name-calling words attributed to me by the press were never spoken to my colleagues, and if they were construed that way, I apologize for their misunderstanding.
Ocasio-Cortez didn't find the apology valid, saying that Yoho wasn't actually taking accountability for his actions.
I do not need Representative Yoho to apologize to me. Clearly, he does not want to. Clearly, when given the opportunity, he will not.
Number 5, Ronald Reagan. The Iran-Contra affair was a scandal in which the U.S. sold weapons to Iran to back the Nicaraguan Contras and secure the release of hostages.
We had weapons being sold by the Pentagon under the Economy Act to the CIA, and the CIA selling them to a third party or an agent, in the case of General Secord, who would then complete the transaction.
The American government had previously pledged not to assist Iran, which this act defied. The scandal was first exposed in 1986.
Selling weapons to Iran, which had held Americans hostage at the embassy, in order to fund the Contras, a group in Nicaragua, in contravention of at least two laws. It's a pretty big scandal.
And in the following year's State of the Union address, Reagan said that, quote, serious mistakes were made in the efforts to free the hostages. However, he didn't explicitly mention the sale of weapons or even actually apologize for the scandal, framing it instead as something that was simply done to save American lives.
We'll get to the bottom of this, and I will take whatever action is called for.
Number 4, Alberto Fernandez. It's fine to be patriotic about your country, but that shouldn't mean denigrating the people of other places or a large portion of your own population in the process. Alberto Fernandez, president of Argentina, learned this the hard way. During a meeting with business leaders and Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, Fernandez made an offensive comment about Brazilian people's origins. To make matters worse, he said that Argentines came from Europe, ignoring his country's diverse populace. These comments were condemned as racially insensitive, and Fernandez, who was reportedly quoting a famous work, said he, quote, did not mean to offend anyone.
One Brazilian senator, though, had perhaps the most biting response. He wrote on Twitter, I now have a better understanding of why Nazi criminals fled to Argentina after World War II.
Number 3, Boris Johnson.
I stand by what I said.
You didn't feel bad?
I stand by what I said.
Okay, what about Burgess? Did you feel bad about that?
I stand by what I say in all these.
A common trait of insincere apologies is apologizing if anyone was offended instead of taking responsibility for hurtful comments. In a report initiated by his Conservative Party regarding discrimination, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson addressed some of his previous comments about Islam. These included comparing women in burqas to bank robbers appearance-wise.
And also, just by the way, maybe Boris Johnson isn't the best person to be criticizing the way other people look. All right? Like, maybe he should be wearing a burqa. Like, what's going on over there?
Johnson said he was, quote, obviously sorry for any offense taken, and that as Prime Minister, he would not use his inflammatory language from the past.
But let me be very clear that I don't set out to cause offense in what I've written. I think what people want to know is, what are we going to do now?
Yeah, no, what people want to know, if you're going to be Prime Minister, why would you say something like that?
Anti-racism group Hope Not Hate found Johnson's apology lacking, referring to it as, quote, mealy-mouthed. Number 2, Todd Akin. When Missouri Representative Todd Akin ran for the U.S. Senate in 2012, he made comments about pregnancy and assault that were condemned as grossly insensitive and medically inaccurate.
The female body has ways to try to shut that whole thing down.
Both Democrats and Akin's fellow Republicans called for him to withdraw, but he didn't.
I can't defend what he said. I can't defend him.
In an underwhelming apology, Akin claimed he didn't phrase his statement properly.
The mistake I made was in the words I said, not in the heart I hold. I ask for your forgiveness.
He lost to incumbent Senator Claire McCaskill and later expressed remorse for his apology, standing by his initial remarks. As Maya Angelou once said, "When people show you who they are, believe them."
Well, things don't always turn out the way you think they're going to. I just called Claire McCaskill and gave her congratulations because the way the numbers are looking, we have lost this race.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. Donald Trump.
And I just want to give you the opportunity. Is there anybody you'd like to apologize to right now yourself?
No.
Donald Trump is not a man who's quick to apologize. So the fact that he did after sexist comments made in 2005 surfaced before the 2016 election is somewhat significant. But based on his phrasing, the then presidential candidate didn't seem to take real responsibility. In a statement, he focused on how the remarks were made years ago and brought up Bill Clinton in an attempt to deflect.
If you look at Bill Clinton, far worse, minor words, and his was action. His was what he's done to women. There's never been anybody in the history of politics in this nation that's been so abusive to women.
He also excused his words as, quote, locker room banter, and offered a conditional if anyone was offended sorry.
I said it, I was wrong, and I apologize.
Trump's comments were not surprising, but many were shocked that he still managed to win the presidential election.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.